Okay. So, yes, good evening, everybody. My name is Eddie from the FEST event. Today, we are very honored to welcome Dr. John Paul Pareja from Philippines in sharing his BBL, Brazilian butt lift experience using Edenizer technology. Okay, so we can start the presentation. Dr. John Paul, you can share your page right now.
Yeah.
Yes, we saw it. Yes, thank you, Dr. John
Huh?
Paul. You may start.
All right. So, good evening, everyone. Of course, I want to thank everyone for having their time today, even on a Sunday. And I hope this lecture would be beneficial to each and every one of us. And my topic is about my BBL experience. So, these are my disclosures. Of course, I would like to talk about liposuction. So liposuction is actually one of the leading cosmetic or plastic surgery done worldwide. And it allows surgeons to improve body contours with very few and small scars. So why we need to talk about this liposuction procedure or BBL procedures? Because here in the Philippines, I think liposuction is the second most common surgery that we do in our clinic aside from rhinoplasty. So a lot of patients are now being more knowledgeable about these liposuction techniques that they are doing in different countries, and they are looking for it locally on where to have it done. So high definition liposuction definitions allowed the surgeons to sculpt the abdomen while enhancing the abdominal etching to create a more athletic abdomen definition. But in order for you to have this result, according to one of my mentors from Brazil, which is Mauricio S. Viaro, you must use the following devices, which is power-assisted to extract the fats, ultrasound-assisted devices to melt the fats, and of course, plasma-assisted device to tighten the skin after your surgery. So now, the question is skin tightening after liposuction a myth or a fact? So why Brazil? So we are all looking forward about the Brazilian technique, and that's why this BBL is called Brazilian butt lift, because it was originated from them. Because as we all know, Brazil has the second most number of cosmetic or plastic surgery procedures done worldwide. And this was according to ISAP survey of 2018. Although it might be on the second position, we can look into the liposuction procedure as one of the top most procedures done in Brazil worldwide per capita. Meaning to say, for every 100,000 people, the Brazil is doing 715 procedures per 100,000 people. And the USA drops out of the top 5 down to the 7th place when it comes to liposuction and Brazilian butt lift. So there's a lot of procedures done in the USA, but Brazil maintains and retains the topmost number of this liposuction and Brazilian butt lift procedures done. So for this, how I do my BBL, of course, I need a power-assisted model or power-assisted device in which I use this VibroFit from Brazil. So this is US FDA approved, Philippine FDA approved. This is very efficient, and this has a low vibration mode in which you can extract fats with a higher return or a higher cell viability with the low vibration mode. So this would help you to harvest those fats more efficiently and more faster. So basically, this is a great partner for your practice. And what you are looking when you're investing on a power assisted device, it should be ergonomic because you will be holding this for a long time when you're doing a procedure. It should be lightweight. It should be silent as well. And of course, the cannulas are very important, which it uses titanium cannulas in which you can bend it totally according to your preference and put them back to the original shape, to whatever shape you molded it. And it's fully autoclavable. It has less vibration. And of course, the aftercell is very important. I also use ultrasound devices in helping me achieve those shadows and etching when I'm doing my high definition liposuction. For this lecture, I'm using the Safer Titanium from Faga Medical as well. So basically, what does it do is it melts down your fats. And then when it melts down your fats, it will be less traumatic for you to harvest those fats. And they have a lot of studies that even if you use this safer titanium, you may still use them for your fat transfers, because some doctors believe that when you do your ultrasound devices after your surgery or after your procedure with ultrasound, you cannot harvest your fats anymore for any fat transfers. But this safer titanium has a lot of published studies that you can still use the fats even after using this device. So this is actually, it uses also titanium probes.
So the
And,
way are
and this is the
it
way
can be
how they check the
soft just with
frequency.
the
So
water.
this was in Brazil. So frequency is very important when you are using your ultrasound devices, because you don't want to have a big variability of this frequency hertz, because if you go below 36 or above 36 kilohertz, you will be most likely be damaging your fibrous septus or other structures under your skin, like the lymph nodes, in which it can lead you to more seromas and any complications after. So again, I'll be asking the same question. Is skin tightening after liposuction a myth or fact? So now I'm presenting to you the last part of my procedure, which I use this Argo plasma. So it uses argo gas and it emits the plasma energy to your fibrous septa after your liposuction. So after your liposuction, when you emit this plasma energy, that fibrous septa will immediately contract, and eventually through time it will create more collagen and elastin, and that leads to skin tightening and retraction after liposuction. In this way, on my practice, I have reduced my abdominoplasty procedures to 80%. So only 20% of my patients who really need the abdominoplasty will be done with abdominoplasty. So these are some of the technicalities, but I would skip this for now. I would like to focus more on uh, the Brazilian butt lift techniques that I'm doing. So this is actually how the plasma device works. So basically it emits air, which is argo gas, and then the high frequency energy will be coming out of the tip, and then that will emit the energy. So as we all know, there are other plasma devices that are available in the market. And what does it differ is the argo gas is more heavier compared to helium. So helium gas is the same gas that we are using for the balloons to plate up, to inflate. And at the same time, it will float on air because it's too argo is heavy and the helium gas is very light. So the problem with that is if your gas is too light, it will tend to go on a dependent position on your patients that can sometimes lead to emphysema because the gas is being well distributed along the subcutaneous tissues. Unlike argo gas, if you inflate the body of the patient with argo gas, the gas will remain on the same area where you put your argo gas, and you can have them suction out after your procedure. Unlike helium, that it will spread out to other dependent areas, which is more dependent, especially on the neck, like on the abdomen or arms, which leads to subcutaneous emphysema that can be very dangerous. So Next, I'll be showing you how argoplasma works.
And also jump to so and also
So this is how the argoplasma work. So basically that probe emits argo gas, and then eventually that argo gas will be ignited by the high frequency energy, and that high frequency energy will create plasma. So that is plasma. The light that you are seeing is plasma. So the electrical energy is floating and being carried by the argo gas. So that's how argoplasma works. So this is how we are using it after your liposuction, especially for patients who have very loose skin. So you are using it under the skin to create the collagen and elastin formation. And then, of course, for the contraction of those fibrous septas. You may also use this for the arms. And then, of course, on the abdomen. You may also use this outside the skin to create more collagen formation on the area. So this is being used outside for stretch marks to create collagen and elastin formation on those areas. So now, the same question that I asked you, skin tightening after liposuction. So this is my patient before and after. So this is she 2 months after. I also did the BBL. So as you can see, the abdomen is really tight. And I didn't do any abdominoplasty on this patient. I only did the liposuction with argoplasma and of course with BBL. So different patient. I did the liposuction, and of course I did the fat transfers on the rectus abdominis muscles, which I will discuss later on how I do it. Same patient, BBL with rectus abdominis, injection of fats on the rectus abdominis, liposuction with argoplasma. Liposuction with argoplasma, and then of course BBL. So same patient, different patient. I did the liposuction without tummy tuck, without abdominoplasty, with argoplasma, and of course I did my BBL. So same liposuction with argoplasma, and of course injection of fats on the rectus muscles, liposuction, liposuction, liposuction with argoplasma. Imagine how it really helped, especially on the contraction of this or retraction of the skin. Look how saggy the skin before the surgery is and after argoplasma. So another patient who came in for liposuction. So this is after 7 days. So I had this patient. She is weighing 94 kilos before her surgery, a mother of 5. And this is her after 1 year of transformation.
This is the message to all the haters out there. If you
So that's how tight. Look at the arms. I didn't do any tuck there. So skin tightening after liposuction, I think, is a fact if you would use the argoplasma. So let's talk about how we do the BBL procedures safely. So of course, I would like to talk about adenizers because adenizer has been the latest addition to my portfolio on my clinic, in which I didn't use before, but when I used it, I never did any BBL procedure without adenizer. Why? It's because of this common fat transfer sequela that I am afraid of. So I'm afraid of fat necrosis I'm afraid of injection of fibrostrands. I'm afraid of infection. I'm afraid of low fat survival. I'm of course afraid of unevenness and irregularities. And the most common reason that I would use adenizer is because I'm afraid of fat embolism. Although there are no significant or there are no published study that adenizers directly reduces the risk for fat embolism. But let me tell you this. How does it work? How does adenizer work? So adenizers is actually a disposable fat processing system, which is relatively very cheap. And it has different sizes. So as you can see this here on my slide, you have the 1,200, 2,400. You also have the 4,000 different sizes available. All right. And those sizes would pertain to how many microns the sizes of the blades are. So the higher the number, the bigger the blades. So basically what does it do is when you process the fats across these adenizers, what does it do is it has these sharp blades inside. And those sharp blades is actually cutting your fat cells into smaller strands in which it activates your mesenchymal stem cells. Basically speaking, when I was using it for the first time, what's on my mind is if I would be cutting my fats into smaller fragments, would I have enough volumization that I still need? Or would it be like watery substance that will just spread out among the area or along the area? So basically, that's the reason why I'm using 4,000, the 1,400, sorry, the 4,000 size adenizers when I need volumization, because this will give me the same volumization that I needed, but the fat cells that I'm injecting to my patients are relatively smaller compared to the standard, like if you would just do your liposuction and then transfer it directly, because some of that you would have those fibrostrands, globules that are too big. That what's on my mind, or what's the principle that I'm following, is the smaller the particles that I'm injecting, is I would have less risk for fat embolism, or less risk for those fats that I re-injected to be systemically circulating on my patient. So it has a lot of FDA approvals all over the world. So rest assured, it has also published a lot of studies in which if you would use these adenizer systems, you would have better yield for your fat transfers. And believe me or not, I believe on that also, because sometimes way back then I was transferring like 1,000 cc of fats per area, per side of the butts, or of butt and hip. So most likely on average, I'm transferring around 2,000 cc or ml of fats when I do my fat transfer procedure. And what happened? After 3 to 6 months of those, when the swelling comes out, at the same time when the healing is better, what happened is sometimes my fat survival is not that good, to the point that I would only get around 40 to 60% fat survival. But when I use this adenizer, right now I'm using 500 cc per side. And what I notice is the fat continuously grows and I will have better fat survival. So at the end of the 6 month, I would have comparable result to my previous procedures that I'm injecting 2,000 cc of fats compared to 1,000 cc of fats when I use my adenizer right now. And of course, when you inject the 2,000 cc of fats to your patients, that will be like the more chances that you insert the cannula, the more chances that you would have your fat embolism when you are doing that. That's the reason why I lowered down my fat transfer procedures to at least 1,000 cc And then I'm using this adenizer. And a lot of my patients have been happy. They don't have any contour irregularities because when you inject these fats after you use your adenizer, they are very smooth. They are very easy to manipulate, especially when you have some dents or some irregularities. It's very easy to massage them to even out those areas. So fat extracellular matrix is actually a network of different proteins and proteoglycans that controls the differentiation, migration, repair, survival, and development. And its remodeling is required for healthy tissue or healthy adipose tissue expansion. So this is very important because it's not like if you transfer the fats on a different area, your fat survival is not that high. Let me tell you, most likely the most that you can get when you do your fat transfers is around maybe 60-70% fat survival, and that will be on the upper limit already. But when you use and when you do your fat transfer together with adenizers, you are upgrading your fat viability because of this extracellular matrix that's being activated during your fat transfer procedures. So the stromal cells from fats are actually connective tissue cells of any organ that can also support the functions of the parenchymal cells of particular organs. That's why these fat cells, when you use your adenizers, they also have this set in which you can harvest your stromal vascular factor, SVF. So later on, I'll show you how the SBF works. So basically, this is the system. This is adenizer system, and they have this ARAT method or the adjustable regenerative adipose tissue transfer. So depending on the area that you will be transferring, they have this protocol on what adenizer to use and how many passes. So the passes here means when you do your fat transfers, for example, you have a collecting tube or your collecting jar, you get 10 cc syringe, and then you pass on. So that would be, there will be adenizer in the middle, and then you have one syringe here which contains your 10 cc of fats, and then you have another syringe here which contains nothing. So you will just pass on. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is 5 passes. And then afterwards, that 10 cc of fats can be injected to your patient already. So these are the protocols. So for the butt, for the breast, for the face, you use these different types of adenizers. So this is how we do it. So this is a video. So you collect the fats from your collecting jar, and then one assistant would be doing 3 to 5 passes depending on the area that I'm transferring. And you can see me there on the left side, I'm already transferring the fats. And this will give me homogeneous consistency of the fats. That's the way I like it, because I don't want any big chunk of fats or big chunk of fibrous tissue that can block my cannula. At the same time, I know that those fibrous tissue will just be a problem in the future that can cause infection or sometimes necrosis. So this is some of the studies that adenizers provided for us. So this just means that even after you pass on the fats on this blades using adenizer, it retains and it even have a high number of cells and viability as a final product after passage of this fats through the adenizers. And this was done by Dr. Ray Kopku, of course. Of course, there's also some tests that were done that cutting the fats with sharp blades will prevent cellular death. Hence, the fat tissue and stromal cells will allow high viability, and of course, the cell count will be higher. So because other filtration or other systems available in the market, they don't use the blades. They just use a mesh that can cause mechanical trauma to your fat cells, and that doesn't have the same result when you compare to adenizer that uses the blade. So this is also the SBF study. So basically, how I do my BBL, I'll do my liposuction first for me to collect the fats. And then once I'm done with my liposuction, I would ask my assistant to process the fats using adenizer system. And then after they process the fats using the adenizer system, I would transfer the fats to the butt and to the hip. So I would usually transfer 1,000 cc for both sides already. So now let's talk about using your adenizers to extract your stromal vascular factor. So basically, the fats that you collected can be transferred on a syringe, and then you will be using the ACS machine. So after your ACS machine, um, this is what you will see. All right. So after you process it on this ACS machine, this is what you'll see. You'll see the SVF, stromal vascular factor, on the lower part of the syringe. So after processing, this is what you'll see. You have the SBF. So the red portion is the SBF and the yellow portion is actually the fats. So you will just get the red portion, that is the liquid part of the fats. And then afterwards, you can inject it to different areas. Like if the patient have some history of osteoarthritis on the knee, on the shoulder, you may inject it directly. So Dr. Erekop, who has a lot of studies in which he is using the SBF, the mechanical SBF, for regenerative medicine. So basically, I think he's doing it or using it um patients who have, I think for female patients, for gynecologists, to restore the pleasure zones. At the same time, he is also using it for different joints. You can also use this for the face, for rejuvenation. And for my case, I usually add my SBF with my fat transfers. So I include it on my fat transfer. So I just pour it on the jar where I will be using the fats for transfers on my BBL. And that gives me better results. So on this patient, I'm injecting it on the knee because she have a previous injury. So my before and after procedure. So this is after 6 months. So most likely the size that you see are the final result already. So this is independent of the swelling. And most likely this will be the long-term result that my patient would be looking at. So before and after. Before and after. Yeah. Before and after. So this is using adenizers. Of course, I did the lipo, adenizers. So this is the patient in which I did. So I did the liposuction with BBL. So this is her before photo. This is her after 1 month. So as you can see, the difference before and after. And this is after 1 year. So you can see the retention and the viability of those fats are very good when you use the adenizer. I also use the adenizer to engrave and to transfer fats on the rectus abdominis muscle. In this way, I can avoid some of the contour irregularities when I'm doing my fat transfers on my rectus abdominis muscles. Liposuction with transfers on the rectus abdominis. This is another BBL. Another BBL. So you can see here how loose the skin is. So this is her before. You'll be amazed after 1 year. This is her after 1 year. So I did the fat transfers also on the rectus abdominis. So if you have any further question, you can send me a message on my Instagram account. So I am _ Dr. Spark.
Okay. You finished with your presentation, Dr. John?
Yes, I'm finished.
Okay, now, yes, we can open up the room for any questions that you have. You can put it in the question and answer in the chat group. So for this procedure, you usually use almost 3 to 4 technologies, Dr. John.
Yeah, so on all the procedures that I'm doing, especially when I do the BBL, I use 4 technologies, which is number one, the first step would be using the ultrasound device in order for me to soften up the fats at the same time to have a less traumatic liposuction experience on my patient. Of course, the bleeding would also be less. At the same time, it would be less painful when it comes to the recovery of the patient. So after I do my ultrasound, I will be doing my power assisted device, which I use the Vibrofit to harvest the fats and to collect them on a canister. And then afterwards, while my assistants are preparing the fats using adenizers, my favorite adenizer is actually the 4,000 and the 2,400 size. So first step, when they collect the fats, they would be passing it through the 4,000 size adenizer for 3 to 5 passes, usually 5 passes. And then it will be passed on to another assistant in which she is using the 2,400 adenizers and 3 passes. And then afterwards, the next step will be the syringe will be going back to me after I do the argoplasma. So for tightening. So once I'm finished with the argoplasma tightening, I'll be transferring the fats on the butt and on the hip. So that's the 4 technologies that I'm using when I do my BBL.
But because of myself, I got a little bit personal experience with Adenizer, so yeah, I'm very interesting to also listen from you why the 4.0 mm, because usually if the how to say we use a 3 mm cannula to harvest the fat, so wouldn't it will be easily pass through the 4.0 mm Adenizer without much yep. What is your
Pressure.
advice on that?
Yeah, because I usually harvest the fats using a 3.0 mm cannula.
Mm.
So when I go directly to the 2400, sometimes it still have some fibrous strands that it would block the adenizer. That's why I use the 4000 adenizer first to filter it out and to remove the big chunks of the fibrous strands. And then afterwards, I will be using the 2400 adenizers when I'm doing my BBL. But of course, when you will be planning to transfer fats to the face, it's a different story. So the end size that I will be using for my facial fat transfers are usually until 600, especially when I need a very fine consistency of fat, especially when I treat the under eye. Or else, if you use a bigger size of adenizer for that, you can also develop some irregularities. That's why I use 600 adenizer for that.
Mm.
On the nasolabial, on the under eye, and even on the lips. But when I want some volumization that is required for my patient when I do the fat transfers on the face, like for example, on the forehead, I will be using 1200. On the chin, I will be using the 1200. And of course, on the cheek, I would also use the 1200.
I think there's a questions by Homer Matthias. Can you see on the screen, Dr. John?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we can answer that.
Good evening, Dr. Homer. Long time no see. So from the time of melting the fats with ultrasound to liposuction, how long will it take you to inject the fats? How much time do the fats are viable until you inject them? Right. This is a very good question because sometimes when you do your harvesting of fats and then when you inject them on the latter part of your surgery, sometimes the viability goes down. That's why they have actually they have a lot of studies, but the time period or the window period that you need to inject the fats is at least 60 to 90 minutes. So when you harvest the fats in 60 to 90 minutes, you have to re-inject them on the patient or else your viability goes down of 20 around 20% every 30 minutes that would pass on. So that's why when we finish the extraction of the fats, the total amount of fats is, for example, it's already 1000 cc. My staff nurse will be putting the time period on the board, and that's the time that where we would be starting to compute after that we have to re-inject the fats within 60 minutes. So for my case, I follow the 60-minute period. So after harvesting in 60 minutes period, I have to re-inject it again, or else my viability would go down, or what you can see on your fat canister system is there will be a lot of oils. So if you see a lot of oils already, please discard that. Don't re-inject that on your patient because that is actually the first sign of fat necrosis. So you don't want to re-inject that on your patient. So the answer is 60 to 90 minutes. But of course, the shorter, the better.
Mm. Okay.
You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, I think there's another one. Can you see the question on the chat group? On the chat, John?
No, I can't see it.
Okay, the question, maybe I put up a question. What cannula size do you recommend for facial fat grafting and cannula size recommended for BBL injection?
The cannula sizes for facial fat transfers are actually depends on the area on the face that you are treating. So when you do the face, like for example, you are planning to treat the under eye area, usually your fats should pass through a gauge 23 or 25 cannula. So that's how fine your fat should be when you are treating the under eye, because the skin on that area is very thin, so it is very prone to develop any contour irregularities on those area. But when you are treating, like for example, the chin or the cheek, I usually use the gauge 18 cannula. So most of the time, I use a disposable cannulas when I'm doing my fat transfers. Because I really do believe that we really cannot sterilize 100% our cannulas. That's why I don't believe in reusable cannulas when I'm doing the fat transfer injections. So when I do the fat transfers procedures on the BBL and on the breast, I use a gauge 12 disposable cannula. So most likely if you don't have the gauge 12 cannula, it's like a 3 mm cannula. 3 millimeters cannula when you are doing the fat transfer. So the bigger the cannula for your breast and for BBL is actually safer, because it would, of course, prevent unintentional injections to your blood vessels. And what they are actually using in Brazil is they are using a basket type of injection cannula. So in that way, you would have your separation. So you have to separate first before you inject the fats. Because when I was starting, I didn't know that we needed to separate. I was just injecting. And what I noticed is my volume expansion is very limited. So what I do right now is I do pre-tunneling before I inject my fats. In that way, my cannula for fat transfer would have a proper plane already when I inject it. So I would have a space enough that I would be injecting my fats on those areas only. Okay, so that's what I use. But for my harvest, I usually use the 3 mm or 4 mm cannula when I'm doing the harvesting for my fat cells.
Okay. Okay, Dr. John, we have a doctor from Thailand. Okay, how can we harvest the stromal vascular fraction with adenizer devices and the efficacy of SVF compared to other techniques?
Yeah, this is a very good question. I have an experience with harvesting SBF for both enzymatic and non-enzymatic methods. So when we talk about enzymatic methods, you are using collagenase in order for you to get the SBF or the stromal vascular factor. But let me answer your first question first, which is how can I harvest the SBF using the adenizer devices? So the adenizer devices have this kit, which is the 12440 or the 24440, in which in one kit, that the adenizers that you will be needing or using to harvest the mechanical SBF is already there. So how does it work? So basically, you will just pass on your harvested fats to the 4,000 size adenizer. 4,000, 2,400, 1,200, 600 size of adenizers. And I think they also have the 400 size of adenizer. And then once you pass on through that stage, but mind you, the number of cycle that you need to do when you want to get the SBF is around 25 to 30 passes. So in that way, you will be doing 30 passes of 4,000 and then 30 passes of the 2,400 until 400 size. And then once you get the 400 size that is already done, they have a machine. The adenizer have a machine in which the one that I showed you, the ACS machine, you would be putting on the fats there on 2 syringes, and then the machine will process it. And then when the machine is done processing it, you would have your SBF already on both syringes. And that SBF can be used already when you wanted regeneration. Like for me, on my case, I use it on the for erectile dysfunction. I use it for osteoarthritis. I use it for rejuvenation of the face. I also use it when I wanted to get better viability of my fat transfer procedures like BBL. So sometimes I incorporate it on the canister of the fats that I will be giving to the patient, or sometimes after my BBL procedure, I will just be injecting the SBF outside. For example, this is the butt. I will just be injecting it from the outside to spread out. Okay. So now the enzymatic SBF is different because you need collagenase. And there are some countries that limits the use of this collagenase enzyme. But on my clinic, I have a cell counter in which I can read on how many cells I will be injecting when I'm using the enzymatic and of course the non-enzymatic using adenizers when I am using the SBF. So when it comes to the comparison or comparable results about other techniques, I think of course, the one with enzymes yields better results. For example, the one with enzymes, I would usually get around um 80 million cells per ml. For adenizers, I would get around 50 million cells per ml. But still, it's not bad because when you use the enzyme, number one, the enzyme is very expensive. Number two, sometimes the limit of this collagenase is very difficult for you to import the enzyme itself on your country. But for me, for example, if I will just be using it for my osteoarthritis of my patients, because here in the Philippines, the average costing or average charging when you use the collagenase enzyme is around 20 to 30,000 US dollar. So it would be really expensive for the patient, for the same patient to have it done every month, to have his or her osteoarthritis treated, spending 20 to 30,000 US dollar per procedure. But when you use your non-enzymatic using adenizers, definitely it will be cheaper because most likely I think the average pricing of one kit of adenizer for SBF is around 500 or 600 US dollar. So most likely the charging is around 2,000 US dollars. So it has a really big price difference. So I hope I did answer your question with that.
Yeah. Again, thank you, Dr. Wong Warit from Thailand, because today is the second day of the Songkran, is the Thai New Year. So
Yeah.
instead of water festival, Dr. Wong still attend the webinar. Okay, this is a good friend of mine, Dr. George Kalfas from Australia. He have a question here. That is, can you use lidocaine when harvesting fat?
Yeah. Actually, you can use lidocaine when you are harvesting fats. It's just that you have to wash them. Like for example, for my case, I don't follow the. I'm so sorry to tell you this, but I don't follow the standard tumescent anesthesia preparation. I use a different formulation. So in every liter of plain NSS of tumescent, I only incorporate around 12.5 ml of 2% lidocaine, which is based on the standard Klein solution. It should be around 25 ml of 2% lidocaine. But for me, I use half of the amount of lidocaine, which is only 12.5 ml, because majority of the patients that I'm doing is they are under general anesthesia. So also I don't want that much lidocaine, but when I do the fat transfer procedures, I usually decant the fat cells 2 to 3 times. Like for example, I have fats on my canister. I would incorporate in every liter of fat cells, I would incorporate 100 cc of plain NSS. And then I will just wait for it to be decanted. And then of course, the solution, the decanted solution will be thrown away. And then I'll put another 100 cc, then flush it again, and then another 100 cc, then flush it again. So in that way, you are actually rinsing off the lidocaine from your fat cells. And yes, I'm using lidocaine when I harvest fats.
Okay, I think this also another very interesting question, because I do ask this question most of the time. As we know, there's a good fat injector called the MapGun, developed by Professor Lin Chai-ming from Taiwan. So the question here is that, do you recommend to use MapGun for facial deployment, or do you prefer bare hand patent grip facial injection with the adenizer after processing with the adenizer?
Honestly speaking, for my case, when I do the fat transfers on the face, I process it with adenizers and I use the gun. In that way, I could be more precise on the amount of fats that I am injecting. The only area that I don't use the gun, but before I'm using the gun also on the BBL, but it will take so much time for me. So, but on the face, I would religiously use the gun when I'm doing the fat transfer, because as we remember, we don't want to inject fats in bolus. And that is one of the scariest thing that you could do when you are doing your fat transfers. Because remember, the 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 blood supply of your fat cells is always dependent on the middle. So the bigger the fat volume that you give, the lower the chances of your fat survival. So you want to give them on a evenly distributed manner, on a very evenly linear distributed manner. And you can only do that, especially on the face, using the gun.
Okay. Are there any more questions from the floor? Or else, if there's no more questions, I will close the session for the day. So thank you very much, Dr. John. And also, I want to take this opportunity to invite attendees that we are also coming out with our upcoming FATS Bangkok 2024 in Thailand. So it will be scheduled on the 28th to 30th of June 2024 in Thailand. And we have a 3 days main conference. And on the first day, we have this instructional course that will also show that most of the devices in the market, comparing what Dr. John said just now, mechanical SVF, we have enzymatic SVF, and we also have a lot of those different instruments that whichever suitable for the practice. And we also have 2 days cadaver hands-on course, the schedule on the 1st of July and the 2nd of July. First day is for the facial stroma enriched lipograph, and the second day is breast stroma enriched lipograph by Dr. Aristotelimas. And okay, if you would like to join, this is the you can join through the link www.fats.my, and that is the tickets that is right now available online. Okay. So with that, thank you very much, Dr. John, and thank you very much to all the participants taking this precious Sunday night for most of the Southeast Asia doctors, and in Australia here is almost like close to about 10 o'clock. So with that, I would like to close the session. Special thanks to Dr. John Paul by sharing his time and also his lecture. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. Good night. Good night. Good night.